Yeah, you just say yes? Okay, great. Hey, everybody. We are about to go live. I am here today with Sandra Bear. Sandra, there's your
Oh,
camera right
there's my
there.
camera. Oh,
Yeah,
good.
you
Hi.
got your camera. I got my camera. So it's a
They're
split.
so little.
It's a split screen, so they'll be able to see both of us at the same time.
Great.
All right, here we go. So bear with me as I do the introduction here. All right. Hey everyone, you're listening to Business Minds Coffee Chat, and I am your host, Jay Scherr, and I am super excited today. I've got a fantastic guest in the studio with me. My guest today is the proud mom of a son and a daughter, and a loving grandmother of two. She was born in St. Louis and lives in Georgetown, just outside of Washington, D.C. What a fantastic place, by the way. She earned a BA in psychology from the University of Missouri and an MBA from Georgia State University. Although work is her pleasure and her passion, when she's not working, you'll likely find her snow skiing, gardening, exercising, cooking, or playing golf. Please welcome the CEO of Personal Cities and the principal brand and marketing strategist for Urban Icon Global, Sandra Bear. Sandra, it is so
Thank
great
you,
to see
Jay.
you. Thank you for being here today.
That's such a pleasure.
Oh, I am so excited about our conversation today. So, I thought a good starting point for us would be for you to share with us maybe one or two words that you would use to describe yourself, describe your personality. So give us one or two words to
Oh, I
work
love
with.
that question. I think about this for a number of reasons, but the two words I'd pick, I think my kids would confirm this, are energetic and passionate.
Energetic and passionate. All right, I love that. So I mentioned it, of course, at the intro that you're passionate about the work that you do. So in terms of those two descriptive words, would you say that those are words that would also have described you when you were a young child? Or were these things that you developed and cultivated over time?
I think in terms of having energy, I inherited that mostly from my mom.
Okay.
Always a glass half full person, always happy and smiling and supportive. So, yes, I was probably energetic as a kid. Um, yeah, my passions have evolved over time, as they do for all of us, by the way. But I think, um, once you find a line of work that you love, once you feel excited about the people you're meeting and the hopefully results you're achieving,
Sure.
you get passionate about it. So that's part of my life now.
Very good. So since you brought up your mom and you mentioned that she was a glass half kind of person,
Uh-huh.
so share with us one of the most valuable lessons that you learned from your mom that you still carry with you today. Clearly there were many, but what if you were to point to one that seems to come up time and time again for you? What is it?
Yeah, she was selfless. She was
Selfless.
kind and selfless and always thinking of others. I know when my brother would have heard this, and when my sister does hear this, they'll agree that she was just always thinking of us and what she could do to help us. Really, one of the most supportive people in my life, always.
Beautiful. Very well. Very well said. So you mentioned you have a sister
I do.
and you had a brother
I
who
did.
passed away.
That's right.
And what was childhood like for you and your siblings? Was there any competition going on? Were you always close? What was that like? Give us just a
Well,
snapshot.
yes. So my brother was 12 years older than me. My sister is 7 years older than me and lives currently in California. Um, yeah, I was the baby. So, I sort of lived separately in some ways and never competed with my brother or my sister per se. We
Okay.
were, enough years apart to have sort of different lives.
Yeah. So how is your relationship with your sister today? Are the two of you close?
Yes, we are. And she lives in Menifee, California, in the desert.
All right.
Yeah, I see her often now more because my son lives in LA. So whenever I'm seeing my son, I try to arrange a hookup with my sister, and just getting to stay current
Yeah.
and keep in touch. As we get older, you just have to keep in touch.
Yes, you most definitely do. There's nothing like family, right?
That's
And
right.
we're blessed when we still have them.
You bet.
Otherwise, we just carry the memories of those
That's
who are no
exactly
longer
right.
with us. So, I mentioned, of course, during the intro that you are the proud mom of both a son and a daughter. You just mentioned your son lives in L.A. and your daughter lives in Italy, where your two grandchildren are.
That's correct.
And before we were recording, I asked you the question about how many different places you've lived throughout your life, and I believe you mentioned 6, and many of them are outside of the country.
Yes.
And so talk about traveling and what it's like for you, because you are on the road regularly. Because when I asked you how often you get to see your grandchildren and your daughter in Italy, you said quite often. So what's it like for you to be able to travel
Yeah.
the world and spend time in different cultures?
Well, travel is actually one of my passions in life, and I always wanted to travel. I wanted to travel rather than care about making a lot of money or doing specific work. If someone's paying my way to travel to someplace on the earth, I'm up for it. So yeah, I've been traveling always through my work, and currently with my work for Personal Cities, my work at Smart Cities World based in London, and my work with Urban Icon Global. There's lots of travel, just a part of that, and I find that that's really what makes me feel happy. Meeting new people, seeing new places. I mean, every place I've traveled has something interesting to show for it, and I think that's a gift to have that appreciation of cultural differences and how people are different and their customs and manners are different. It's a gift in my life.
Yeah, I love that. And certainly it has to be a benefit to you in the work that you do today, especially when we think about designing smart cities, which we're going to talk about here because I want to better understand and give our audience the opportunity to better understand what that is, what it means, and how you create impact there. But the fact that you're around so many diverse cultures and people and arts and all the amazing things that you get to see, that allows you to be able to pour that into those that you're working with.
That's for sure.
When it comes to smart cities. So if you were to write your autobiography,
Oh no.
what do you think an appropriate title for that book would be? As you scan your life up to this point,
Right.
give me the title of your autobiography.
Oh gosh, that would normally require some thought. It's interesting because in my work with cities, I'm always pushing for them to take bigger, bolder action.
Mm-hmm.
It's part of the reason that has inspired me to write a book, which I can tell you about later. But I think this idea that we can talk around a problem, we can ask a difficult question, but we better come up with some ideas, some insights, some actionable recommendations to get people to change. And in the world we live in today, I mean, it's critical that we don't just talk around these problems of climate, of technology, social issues. We've got to take action. So something about action-oriented Sandra would
All right.
be my favorite title.
I love it. Action-oriented Sandra. Okay. All right. I can almost see
Nobody's
the
buying
image.
that book, I hate to tell you.
You know what? I'm going to buy it. I want to learn more about you. All right. So speaking of asking better questions, right, and the need to do that.
Yeah.
So let's talk about cities for a moment. So first of all, I mean, we know that cities are a vibrant, living, breathing hub, right? A place of community, diversity, art, culture, history, business, education, and so much more. So tell me what smart cities are and give the response in a way that you're speaking to me who knows nothing about smart cities. So what are they?
Well, great question. I love the question because it's funny that people have different perceptions about it or they don't even know what the term means. But smart cities have been around for a long time as defined by a geographical area that's also really focused on using advanced technology to take care of the city operations.
Okay.
And that's everything from health and education, it's technology, it's social issues, it's energy, it's mobility, it's it's the built environment, housing and retail and restaurant, everything about a city that makes it an attractive place to live, work, play, and visit, makes it a smart city.
Okay, so it is on the operational side. That's what I'm hearing.
That's
I mean,
part
that's
of it,
that's
yeah.
certainly part of it. That's core to it. So, I want to phrase this the right way. So this is something that I work with my clients in asking better questions, because the quality of our questions determines not only the quality of our own lives, but also the quality of our outcomes.
That's for
right?
sure.
So what does that mean? That means we have to ask better, deeper, more important, difficult questions often in order to really get to the best solutions. Would you agree with that?
I would agree with it, and I'm writing a book about it.
Okay, wonderful, wonderful. So we'll certainly talk more about that. But
Right.
here's where I want to go with this.
Sure.
For all of us that are listening right now, what are some of the difficult questions that we should all be thinking about, that we should be asking relative to our own cities? So for this question, I'd like you to not only speak to the thousands that are listening right now, but also part of those that are listening are leaders in this community,
Yes.
leaders that are influential in making decisions about shaping the future of our community here.
Right.
What should they be asking that maybe they're not asking today?
Well, first of all, how can you, being the city leader or the civic organization or the individual, how can you contribute to your city's success? What are your values? Are they transparency, accountability? Are they integrity? Do you have a set of values that apply to the questions you ask? If you're a leader in a city, what collaborations should you create? What sponsorships, partnerships, new connections should you make to help you shape your city in a new way? We're all reimagining our cities today, Jay, and if you're doing a good job of it, you're asking those kinds of questions. And finally, I think, how can you build new relationships with the youth of your community?
Ooh,
With
yes.
young people that are the burden of our society is on their shoulders. And whatever mistakes we've made, whatever successes we've achieved, they inherit it. So working with young people is the question we should all be asking when we host meetings about smart cities or meetings about government actions. Involve the young people. And I work with them all the time. I do a bit of mentoring. I'm telling you, they know what's happening, and they're living a different life than we're living. So to me, those are the questions. Finally, the big question is, how can we rebuild trust? How can we make sure we trust each other? Government, institutions, individuals, everyone needs to be in that camp as well.
Wow, these are some really good questions for us to think about. And I just know that, as I navigate through the community, that those kinds of conversations or those kinds of questions probably aren't being asked enough. And if they are being asked,
For sure.
often they're being asked behind closed doors. But I love what you just brought up, because it really does plant some important seeds for us, because the reality is that we all play a role in reimagining and shaping our future.
We do.
And the fact that you just tied values to that also just really lands with me.
Oh, good,
That hits
good.
me, and I've got goosebumps on my arms
Excellent.
because of that. So I appreciate that. So Sandra, we're going to hit pause on this conversation. We're going to take a brief break to thank our incredible sponsors. My friends, you are listening to Business Minds Coffee Chat. We will be right back. Don't you go anywhere. All right, you're doing great.
Oh, good.
You feeling good?
You're asking good questions, by the way.
Okay. All right, good.
I've never had to title a book about my life. And, I just made that up as we're sitting here.
It's
but-
okay. I like it. You never
No,
know.
but those are the kind of questions you sort of want to think about in advance.
Sure.
But it is, we can talk.
Yeah, we can talk. We're still recording.
Yeah,
So,
good, good.
but
Oh, well, I was
no,
gonna
we're
say-
not for the radio show, but the YouTube.
It is
So-
my pet peeve. People talk around a problem. They talk about this thing. They restate the problem. we have a problem with unhoused people.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you can just keep talking about it, or you can take some action to change it.
Yeah,
And no city
absolutely.
has cracked that nut, just so you know.
Well, it is such a difficult challenge, but that doesn't mean that we should look the other way because it's the
Absolutely.
difficult things that make the biggest impact.
Absolutely. We put a man on the moon, as they say.
Yeah, right.
We
Are you
should be able
questioning
to,
that? Are we going to
we
talk
should be-
conspiracy theories on this show?
Probably not.
Okay.
Probably not.
Okay.
I don't know them well enough.
Yeah, you and me both. You and me both. All right, great. So we will jump back into the conversation here.
And by the way,
Yeah.
if you want to ask a little bit, so it's not about asking better questions or the right questions. It's about keep asking.
Keep asking.
Don't jump to answers. That's what cities do.
Okay.
That's, how are we going to solve this traffic problem? Well, I've got an idea. We're going to do blah, 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 which doesn't work.
Okay.
And then, of course, we still have traffic. Now,
All
the
right.
trick is to what we call question storm. But
Yep, I got it.
Anyway, we can do that later as well.
Yeah. No. This is good. Okay, great. So, my friends, you're hearing this live. We're going to be diving right back into the Business Minds Coffee Chat radio show here in just a second. Okay, you all set? Get your sip of water.
I am totally having fun.
All right. I hope you're having fun. I know I am.
I love your format here. This is great.
Thank you. All right, very good. Mark, we all set? Okay, here we go. All right, we're back. And again, you're listening to Business Minds Coffee Chat. And I am in the studio today with a fantastic guest. I'm sitting here with Sandra Bear. And man, what a fantastic conversation we're having. I love this. And I truly appreciate your level of authenticity and just being candid and going in different directions. This is really an exciting and enjoyable conversation. And I'm learning as we go along as well. So
Great.
Right before we took the break, we were talking about what smart cities are and some of the tough questions that we should be asking because we all play a role in shaping the future of our communities. And, I wanted to dig a little deeper on the questions that we should be asking, right? You gave some great insights there. During the break, and those that are watching on YouTube got to hear part of this conversation, but one of the things that you said was that we need to keep asking the questions and not just jumping to the answers. And what I find interesting about that is in the work that I do, it really is about the Socratic method, right? Mm-hmm. It's about continuing to peel back the layers of that onion. It's kind of like a child who's always asking, but why? But why? Right? Why can't I have that? Or why should I be doing that? Right? They want to keep going further until you get to the root of the question and come up with better answers. So to that point about keep asking and digging deeper so we don't just jump right immediately to solutions, let's bring up a couple of things that are big topics that certainly impact our community here and impact many other communities as well. Now, we're not going to solve the problem here today, but what I'd love for you to do is to guide us a little bit in maybe how we should be looking at something differently, maybe a different perspective, a different question we should ask. So one of them would be homelessness. The other, and maybe we'll stick with just homelessness and start thinking about what should we be asking differently, but the other one would be traffic, because as our population here continues to grow, right where you are right now, when we leave here, you're going to experience what traffic looks like here that has continued to swell, especially in this particular area. And, as just a little sidebar, we were talking earlier before we started recording about perspective, right? Because some people, like in LA, that's traffic. Okay. Here, it's going to look very different, but we would still consider it traffic here.
Course.
So homelessness and traffic, just those two big topics. What should we be asking ourselves?
Yeah, well, those are two really divergent issues, but the area of unhoused people, the the problems of homelessness, they really haven't been solved anywhere in the United States.
Okay.
I don't think any city has cracked the nut to figure out, what are the right solutions. A lot of people say, well, we've got to get housing, affordable housing, housing for the homeless, different from putting people in shelters. But housing is one step. In fact, it's the first step often.
Okay.
But the real issues around housing, the questions we should be asking around homelessness, forgive me, are, what other services do these people need? Is it about addiction? Is it about education? Is it about training? Have they lost their jobs? Do they need skills training? There are a lot of ways that people should be asking questions about what people need besides a shelter, a place to live. So I think that that's what's not really happening. And then, of course, if you figure out some of these services that they need, where do they go? Where do the people go for that help? Are those services in sort of a condominium kind of place, an
Sure.
apartment place where some of these unhoused folks could live? A lot of people that are close to homelessness are one paycheck away from it. So it's not like we can put a blanket idea around that population. They're very diverse, and they're in needs of all kinds of help. We should be asking, what kinds of help do they need? How can we make that real in our community?
Absolutely. And to your point, I think what you just shared with us is the first step in really drilling deeper, right? So yes,
That's right.
whatever the issue is, how do we take that issue and then really do a root cause analysis? And that's going to be different for each person,
That's
right?
right.
We can't put everybody in the same bucket and say that, homelessness is an issue because there's an addiction problem, right?
Right. You can't do that.
There's all kinds of things going on,
Exactly.
right? So that's a great point. So let's talk about then traffic, kind of taking the same approach. Give us a little
Right.
bit of insight on some things that we should be thinking about, talking about, and asking.
Yes, well, and traffic, as you pointed out, Jay, very appropriately, is in the eye of the beholder.
Yes.
Traffic in LA is different than traffic in Jacksonville, Florida.
Right.
But I do think that we have technology to improve traffic congestion. We know how to synchronize traffic, for example. And the emergency management folks, the people that are Department of Transportation folks, they know how to manage traffic in times of need. So the question is, why aren't they doing more of it? And, if you have a baseball game, I live in Washington, D.C. If you have an Nats baseball game, we know the traffic patterns that are going to occur at that point.
Sure.
Do we just need policemen out there directing traffic, or are there some technologies we could use that could improve it on a automated basis?
Absolutely. So even a hybrid approach, right? Because
Totally.
sometimes just throwing more people at a situation doesn't make the situation better.
Right.
Right. We have to manage it effectively, synchronize, so on and
That's
so
right.
forth. Okay.
Well,
right,
all of
very
our
good.
mobility issues, whether it's traffic congestion or just moving from one place to another in a city, all of those mobility issues are tremendously benefiting from new tech. And the smart cities know how to implement that.
Ah, that is so interesting. So, give me an idea of 1 to 2 big questions that you're asking yourself today.
I just happen to have them.
Okay, so first of all, we didn't have a pre-conversation,
We did
right?
not.
So
We
there's
did not.
no script to this show. This is a very organic conversation. But here's what I'd like you to do.
Sure.
I'd like you to share with us what those 1 to 2 big questions are that you're asking yourself, and it can be about life, it can be about business, but it's those things that keep you up at night, those
Yeah.
things that you are really digging deep on. So 1 or 2 of them, what are they?
Well, first of all, there's not much that keeps me up at night. I'm a great sleeper.
Oh, you lucky woman, you.
But I guess one of the questions that I see in cities all over the world is, what is our community identity? That's another way of saying, what is our brand image? And cities need to think more about that. What makes my city a great place to live in? What makes it attractive to attracting new talent, to keeping people living there, to keeping people proud to be there? What is Palm Coast, Florida known for?
You're going to get lots of different responses
so.
there. Well, lots of different responses. It's funny when you think about community identity and branding. I mean, one of the things that Palm Coast was branded with when, very early on was Garfield. the cat.
Oh,
Garfield. Yeah,
because
that Garfield is
little
part
did I
of
know.
it's part of our history.
Oh my
It is part
gosh.
of our history, and we Palm Coast was able to obtain the rights to be able to use Garfield
I see.
in all of its marketing paraphernalia, et cetera,
Got it.
when the city was founded and growing, et cetera. But I agree that's so important, because one of the biggest things that we continue to work on is, how do we have great education systems here. We have great universities here. We have excellent programs and technologies, et cetera. How do we keep young people here after they go through the education system, right? So they've gone through high school. Many choose to start their own businesses, or they decide to go to college.
Right.
But what's going to keep them in this community, that's going to keep them not only employed with good paying jobs, opportunities, but this is again a thriving community. So what do we do to keep them here?
Well,
Right?
first and foremost, you have to communicate the assets.
Okay.
You have to identify what assets are there that would attract, for example, young people to stay here, work here, start a business, raise a family. I think a lot of cities think they know their assets, but it's not really out there in the world. So, a PR campaign, a marketing campaign to really communicate what makes Palm Coast a unique place to live. And if you look at other cities around the world, what's Paris known for? Paris is known for love and beauty and art
Yes.
and entertainment.
Great food.
I mean, people that have never set foot in the city of Paris want to go there because of its perception in the world.
Yeah.
So every city needs to think about that. And more importantly, every city needs to keep asking questions about what are the assets? What are the things that we could improve on? What are the, if there are problems in the city, let's talk about them. Let's not, try to push them under a rug. Let's figure out what makes our city great and then go for it.
Yes, absolutely. I love it. And, it's funny, kind of going back to the very first question I asked you about, what are two words you would use to describe yourself? One was energetic, the other is passion. I'm feeling both. I'm feeling both right now. There's no question about it. So,
Right,
I know that everybody that's watching right now on YouTube or that's listening to our voices can feel that as well.
Well,
So,
and just tied to that, just quickly,
Yeah.
is this idea of livability. I'll be talking about that tomorrow here in Palm Coast. What makes a city livable? And frankly, a lot of cities in the world are not livable certain months of the year. They're too hot. There's too many storms. There's extreme weather that's affecting their livability. So a city should be aware of that and take action to either prepare for climate effects or prepare for social issues or prepare to make their city more livable.
Again, great questions for us to be pondering, right?
That's
for us
right,
to
that's
think
right.
about. All right, wonderful. So, as we are wrapping up our conversation today, which, by the way, I could talk to you for hours.
I know, we could.
So, Scherr, I would love it if you would give all of us, including me, one challenge. What is one challenge that you would give to us and ask us to start doing today?
Right. Well, that's easy for me. As I mentioned earlier, I'm writing a book with a co-author, Dr. Lawrence Jones, about building trust. And I think it is incumbent on each of us to be trustworthy, to be models of trust, but also to try to see this divisive world we live in through the lens of other people. We developed a process called question storming, and you're only allowed to ask questions. So that idea is difficult for most of us. We want to give answers, as we talked about earlier.
Yes.
But the challenge is to become trustworthy in your own life, to have that integrity and honesty, but also to make sure that you're not just in this silo, this circle of your friends and your business associates. Reach out from there and try to have question storming sessions with other people.
I love that so much. That is so good. So, ironically, I just wanted to share with you that today
Yes.
I post every day something that's top of mind for me. And it was around updating our thinking, right? Because narrow thinking leads to narrow outcomes, missed opportunities, limited solutions,
Sure.
and a world that never grows beyond our own assumptions, right? So we have to expand our thinking. We have to ask different questions, and we have to realize that even if we are trying to hold on to our beliefs, right? things change, right? We have to be prepared to challenge our beliefs because that's the only way we can grow, right? And it's the
Totally.
same thing within cities. We have to be prepared to challenge the assumptions, challenge our own fears, our own biases, right? Because all of that rolls up and it
Totally.
affects how we are going to shape the future of our cities. So, Sandra, I want to thank you so very much for
Oh,
joining me today
completely.
on Business Minds Coffee Chat. And what a fantastic conversation.
Completely my pleasure.
I love your passion and your energy.
Thank you.
And thank you. I'm grateful for you.
Thank you, Jay.
Absolutely. It is my pleasure. And for all of you, I want to thank you so very much for tuning into Business Minds Coffee Chat. We will be back next Saturday morning at 8:30. And until then, my friends, keep learning and growing. Keep asking yourself better questions and keep doing the work to reach your potential. Take care, everybody. All right.